The power of a story. Hi, I'm Annalouise, and today I'm going to be talking about just that, the power of a story, even a really small story, how powerful it can be, and also the yummy feelings we can get from storytelling that we might not have had for a long time. We may have had when we were little. So bringing back our awareness into storytelling and its magic and its ability to transform our nervous system and our state of being. Sounds like a big ask, doesn't it? I'm going to explain a little bit of how this topic came up for me, and that might help give a context of why I think storytelling can actually be very potent, even as an adult. A few weeks ago, I was in bed ill and not going anywhere. I was very much in bed. And another friend of mine was also in the same situation in his house. And we were speaking on the phone. And tongue in cheek, I said, "So what are you doing tomorrow?" Because clearly both of us were still going to be in our beds the next day. So tongue in cheek, I said, "What are you doing tomorrow?" And just spontaneously, without any thought, he said, tomorrow I'm going to start kayaking from a point really near here, and I'm going to kayak the length of Spain to near Tarifa, and then I'm going to kayak across to Morocco, and then I'm going to trek through Morocco into the Atlas Mountains, and I'm going to climb the biggest mountain." And I was just like, wow, how amazing is that? How inspiring, how wonderful. I was totally transported by his story. It totally took me out of any suffering I might be feeling, any sense of restriction and stuckness, and into this magical world of possibility and wonder and adventure. And it was interesting, because the next day we spoke again, and, I said, what about the kayaking? And he was like, I've decided to delay till tomorrow. And then, we continued the story a little bit, and it was, it really carried us through this little fantasy of this kayaking and trekking adventure. And I noticed lots of things happening in my body. I noticed, like that vibration of inspiration, like sort of that openness and bigger energetic field. I also noticed more like optimism coming through, more possibility. I noticed enthusiasm and comfort. And I also noticed this lovely sense of connection I had with him in the story. This sense of shared fantasy. And that created, I think, a lot of oxytocin in my system, that feeling of feeling part of something, feeling connected to someone else. So all of those things seem to be really helpful for healing, for getting better. And of course, parents probably know this better than anyone else. If a child is hurt themselves or is feeling unwell, it's a natural response to tell them a story, to either tell them or read them a story, or to make up a story, even better, to make up a story in the moment. And that was another thing about my friend Pedro's story. It was this spontaneity, it was this unfolding, it was the improvisation in it that made it so powerful. It wasn't being read off a script or something that he'd even thought about before. It was just in the moment. And in that respect, although we might not be talking about current time, there's something that brings us really into presence with storytelling, because we're responding to whatever's passing through our consciousness in the moment. So when we're making up stories, we're allowing it to flow through us, a bit like someone perhaps improvising music, or maybe a sports person like responding to a particular moment in a game. It's that moment by moment responsiveness that brings us in and enables us to be really here If we're making up a story, we're not thinking about other things, are we? We're not thinking about when are we going to be doing the washing, or we're really captivated by this moment. So I'm curious, what is your relationship with storytelling as an adult? Assuming you are an adult, you may not be. Whatever age you are, what's your relationship with storytelling? Both in terms of giving stories, like making up stories, and also in terms of receiving them. So let's start by giving stories. What's your relationship with making up stories, giving stories, writing stories maybe? Do you feel that's part of you has been left behind somewhere? Like, do you remember when we were little at school, we were asked often, weren't we, to make up a story and to write it down in our notebooks? It was part of our habitual work in school. How's that for you now? Is it something that you still do in some way or not? And wherever you are in your relationship to storytelling, how does that feel? Does it feel like a part of you has been left out? Or does it feel that, wow, no, I really feel complete in that part of wondrous imagination and storytelling and newness and freshness? So that's one side, the storytelling. And the other side is in the receiving of a story. I would like you to imagine for a moment that you're lying in bed, nice and snug and comfortable, and someone that knows you well and that you feel really safe with is telling you a story in a nice, quiet voice. They're telling you an inspiring and comforting story while you close your eyes and relax. Story that fills you with warmth and love, and you can feel the power of the connection with that person and their care in the time that they're taking to tell you a story. And how does that feel? Can you imagine it? Are there any points where you find it difficult to connect with the idea of someone reading you or telling you a story? Maybe in bed feels like a little bit not quite the right setting. Maybe you're on the sofa or somewhere else. It's curious to see where we have holdouts as an adult being told a story, and also where we really are craving to receive a story in some way. I was deeply blessed to have parents that did read me stories when I was little, and also one of my favourite things was I had a record player and I had a Winnie the Pooh record. Maybe I had several, I can't remember now, probably had several, of Winnie the Pooh stories, and I would listen to them for hours over and over again. So my mum would put me to bed and she would put the record player on, and I would just listen to them for so long before I fell asleep. And I loved those stories. I just loved them. They just connected me with my heart. Yeah, they really did. So I wonder what your relationship was when you were a child with storytelling, whether you received stories or not. Maybe you received them at school, maybe from someone in the family, or maybe you read yourself when you were old enough. Receiving a story is very different to storytelling, I think, but equally as powerful in a different way. And it's very special. Maybe you're a grandmum or you're a mum and you are still reading stories to young children, or maybe an aunt, and receiving some of the blessings of storytelling that way. Storytelling. It's interesting, isn't it, how it can fill us up. When we're receiving a story, we can really drop into a deeper level of peace and relaxation, can soothe our nervous system. And it also opens up this possibility that everything is possible. In Storyland, everything is possible, right? And the truth of reality is actually the same, even though our configuration often doesn't feel that and doesn't see it and doesn't experience it. But it feels like the truth is there's all possibilities present in any moment. You know, everything is here now, all time, all space. There's something that's, anything's possible. And we see time and time again that things that seemed completely infeasible were achieved, you know, completely infeasible. And so another power of telling stories is this opening up, not just the fact that a story is a story, the fact that a story is a portal to help us recognize that within the story, we can connect with a sense of everything's possible in this life now. We can tell ourselves stories to fuel our connections in our brain, to create new neural pathways, to expand our sense of possibility and realness, even though it's storytelling, and enable all of that to be integrated through our system to open up our worlds and expand our future and our present. How does that sound? So I'd love you to put your feedback below around your relationship to storytelling, and do share, and be open over the next few weeks of recognizing where storytelling is going on, and maybe try it out playfully with some friends, a bit like my friend did with me, of launching into a completely non-credible in current time story. So it's very obvious it's a story. It's not like making something up. It's a story. And see where the conversation goes. See what happens. And yeah, taking more opportunities to create little stories, even if they're just 2 minutes. Like maybe in the morning, going, what story can I tell myself this morning, or in the evening before I go to bed, and see what happens. As always, an exploration and curiosity and an adventure of this mystery of life. Sending you so much love. If you've liked this, please do press like, and if you think of anyone that might resonate, anyone who's perhaps a storyteller or likes receiving stories or might be interested in more stories, I'd love you to share it. Just press the share and you can share it with your friends or family. And have a lovely week, and cultivating our imaginations, our spontaneity, and our wonder and awe.